Carly here. I am a few minutes past 7. I said I'd kick this off around 7 o'clock tonight. But I've just finished a group distant healing with a few amazing people, so I'm just running a couple of minutes behind. But I just wanted to jump on live tonight and give you some free training on my top tips to increase your sense of self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, all those kind of amazing things. So why this? Why self-love? How do you even know if you've got self-love or not? So I suppose I just wanted to kind of share my journey into that initially, because for me, it was never really obvious that I didn't love myself enough, right? So it's a very kind of vague concept, isn't it? It's not really a measurable thing when you kind of think about it in a surface level way, I suppose. By the way, if you're jumping on, say hello, say where you are jumping in from, what country you're at. I'd love to connect with you as you jump on. So yeah, my story about self-love, like back in 2010, early to mid 2010 to late 2010, I was stuck in a hole. I was lost, depressed, anxious, a shell of my former self. I was at the start of 2010 stuck, very much stuck in a unfulfilling relationship, which was very toxic and harmful to both of us, but especially me. I was in a lot of physical pain. I'd slipped a couple of discs in my back. I'd had a lot of really hectic things going on in my life for quite a few years before that. Lost a lot of people to suicide, a lot of people I love, a lot of people nearly died from suicide, lots of really crazy shit going on in my life. And I found myself just like a shell of my former self, mid 2010, especially towards the end of 2010, mid 2010. Yeah, and about to get diagnosed with depression, which I refuted for a while, right? The doctor tried to diagnose me with depression, and I was like, no, it's not that. I've done psychology degree, I've done a forensic psych masters. I could write a thesis on what depression is. I'm not depressed. I can't be depressed. And it really was that whole trap of smiling depression. And at the time, I felt like I kind of got myself out of it. I was signed off work for a few months because of my back. I was in a pretty bad way and couldn't work. And I think that's one of the things that really triggered depression for me, because I couldn't go to work and I also couldn't exercise, which is a massive go-to stress reliever for me. So yeah, I found myself in depression, and then I started learning a fair bit then around more self-care than self-love. And I think for quite a while, I thought that self-care was self-love. And it is a part of self-love, but it isn't everything to do with self-love. And it really wasn't obvious to me until fast forward, I'm going to say 2016, 2017. Back in 2010, I was living in London. I ended up leaving that relationship, moving to Australia. And yeah, I found myself in Australia in about 2016, 17, in a place where I built my dream house by the ocean. I was in a relationship. I was running my business full time. I just got my my Australian residency. I had achieved some massive, massive goals that I'd set for myself. And life was completely different to what it was in 2010. And I wasn't depressed by any means at all. But I felt this growing hole in my solar plexus area. Your solar plexus area is kind of just above your belly button. So it's kind of around here. And your solar plexus is a chakra that is very much connected to confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, those kind of things. And I just felt like this growing hole there, like, it felt like it was getting emptier and emptier in that area. And I really didn't know what it was about. And I could not put my finger on it. And I'm someone that listens to podcasts and motivational stuff constantly, And I can't even remember what podcast I was listening to, but I was listening to something and I just had this aha moment. I think there was some stuff going on for me back then around money, and someone said something on a podcast which was something about your bank balance or your financial success will only it will be capped by your worthiness, basically, your sense of self-love. So your bank balance will only grow to the extent that your sense of self-love does. And I just kind of had this aha moment where I thought, that's it. I actually don't think that, even though I've worked my balls off for all these amazing things that I've got in my life, and I literally am living the life of my dreams in so many ways, I realized that I didn't feel like I deserved it. And that was like a newsflash to me, right? And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's something I haven't considered before. And there was a couple of my other coach friends who were going through similar things at the same time. And so I kind of made it a mission to create a project out of myself, and I called it Project Self-Worth. And I thought, it really wasn't obvious to me at all that I didn't love myself enough, because, I had amazing friendships. I did work that I love. Like, I was living in a country that I love. I'm a goal achiever, setter. Like, I was living a really, really good life. I've come from an amazing family, blah, blah, blah. But when I truly thought about it, there were a lot of things that were happening in my life that equaled me not loving and respecting myself enough. So recently I did a video where I talked about the best question that you can ever ask yourself, which is, if I 100% loved and honored and respected and nourished myself, how would my life look different? Who would be in my life? Who wouldn't be in my life? Would I be doing this work? Would I be living in this house? Would I be in this relationship? How would my situation be different? And back then, I was getting into struggle town when it came to money stuff. I was in a relationship that was pretty abusive emotionally and financially. I was allowing myself to be treated like shit in that relationship, not by anyone else, but for me, relationships was still very much the thing that I hadn't conquered yet for myself. And really what I hadn't conquered for myself was that I didn't love or respect myself enough to honor myself and say, no, this is enough. Like, this is enough now. I refuse to be walked over and treated like shit, because I deserve a lot more than that. So anyway, I created Project Self-Worth, and over time, I can't even remember how long I was doing it for. It was probably a couple of years that I was doing this playlist for relentlessly for the first few weeks/months. It kind of all blurs into one now, but I created this playlist on YouTube, and it's the bulk of this playlist is EFT tapping videos. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's tapping on various acupressure points. As you're tapping on those points, you repeat statements that you believe to be true about yourself. So it's a really good break state, but it also helps to kind of unwind the energy of what's going on in your energy field. So all the EFT videos that I put in this playlist were focused on self-love in some way. So there's things like needing approval and validation from other people, knowing that you're worthy enough, feeling like you're good enough, not taking on other people's drama. There's loads of those EFT videos. There's also motivational videos. There's yoga for opening up the heart chakra. There's subliminal music, meditations. There's all kinds of stuff in there. And as I was going through Project Self-Worth and really getting to know myself on a much deeper level and thinking, why is it that I put up with this bullshit in my relationships? And it had been a pattern for a long time, where I didn't really have my own voice a lot of the time. I didn't stand up for myself enough. I thought that I was being cruisy and easy, but really what I was doing was just letting someone else take control of things. And it's because I didn't love myself enough. So as I got into Project Self-Worth, what I really noticed was that someone would say something to me that I didn't particularly like, and I would be really assertive and just say something back straight away that was me standing up for myself. And in the past, what would have happened is someone would say something that would trigger a response in me that I'd be kind of like, ouch, that hurt. And then I'd have to go away and think about it and I'd be thinking, I've got to say something. I've got to stand up for myself. I need to nip this in the bud. And then by the time I thought about it and mulled it over, the time had passed and the moment had passed to do something about it. So I just didn't. Hey Gary, how you going? So yeah, I just didn't do anything about it, and that's how people just constantly get away with stuff, and that's how you allow yourself to be treated. You show people how to treat you by not saying anything, by not standing up for yourself. So yeah, so learning personal boundaries was a massive thing for me. I had nailed it in a lot of areas with clients, with colleagues, with friends, with family, but relationships for me was the thing that took a while longer to learn. I'm happy to say that I've learned it and I've got an amazing relationship these days. But it took a lot of self-love. And even when I got together with my fiance now, I had to do even more self-love work to really let him in because he is so amazing to me. So I had to, again, increase my sense of self-worth and self-esteem to go, I am truly worthy and deserving of the love that he gives me. So that was like another growth opportunity. So that's my story about how I came to know about self-love, because, up until then, I really had just thought self-care was self-love, and self-love is so much more than running a hot bath for yourself or going for a walk or doing exercise or nourishing yourself with food. It's all those things as well. But it's also saying no when you want to say no. It's also knowing what your boundaries are. It's about not feeling guilty when you say no to stuff that you don't want to do. It's about not allowing anybody to treat you as less than anything, because you know your fucking worth. It's about all of those things. And if you truly loved and honored yourself, you wouldn't ever stay in a shit job just for the sake of it. You wouldn't ever stay in a shit relationship for the sake of it because you're scared to be alone. You wouldn't be scared to be alone because you fucking love yourself. So the telltale signs, how do you know if you don't love yourself enough? Well, are you looking after your body? I suppose is one simple thing. Are you abusing it in any way with drink, drugs, numbing it out with Facebook, Netflix, saying that you're going to do stuff and not doing stuff? So are you out of integrity with what you say you're going to do and what you actually do? Are you out of alignment with your values, with the things that really matter to you? Are you telling other people what to do and not doing it yourself? Are you letting other people speak to you like shit and treat you like you're a less than person? Are you feeling unhappy and lost and miserable and sad and all those things? Are you constantly complaining about and whinging about life? If you just tune into it, do you feel like you actually love yourself enough? When you look at yourself in the mirror, what happens? One of the things that I get my coaching clients to do is to look in the mirror, look directly into their eyes in the mirror. Just that alone is really difficult for a lot of people. And then to say, look at themselves in the mirror and say, I love you, and actually mean it. Just look at yourself and say, I really, really love you. Like, I genuinely love you. And not have any kind of real horrible sensations come up in your body. A lot of people can't do that. If you can't do that, that's definitely a sign you don't love yourself enough. So those are some of the telltale signs. If you've got any other telltale signs, then yeah, Christian, this is my learnings now. Yep, 100%. And we're all a work in progress with that, aren't we? We really, just because I'm doing this training right now doesn't mean I've got it all figured out either. I'm a constant work in progress, but I've spent years doing this stuff and I'll never stop. It's a constant process of loving myself enough to get out of bed at 5 a.m. and get in the gym. Some days when I don't want to, when I'm too tired, if I've had a shit sleep, I still do it because I know I'm going to feel better afterwards. I still eat as well as I can. Yeah, I eat junk food, I drink wine, but it's about not overdoing any of those things. It's about enjoying the things that you're doing. It's about loving yourself enough to treat yourself well, to give yourself compliments and accept compliments as well, right? That's a really important one as well. So those are some of the telltale signs. If you've got any other telltale signs as well, feel free to drop them in the comments box below. So in terms of my favorite tools, that I like to use, that I've been using as part of Project Self-Worth. Like I mentioned before, emotional freedom technique tapping is one of my absolute favorite tools for breaking your negative state. If you're feeling like shit, that's an amazing tool to snap yourself out of it. But it's also a really good tool to move towards goals. So I've used EFT to snap myself out of a funk, to break through resistance, anger, resentment, whatever it might be, to release money trauma, to attract 20 grand into my life, to attract better relationships into my life, you know, for all those things. So it really is an amazing tool. Forgiveness is my other really, 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 really amazing favorite tool. And self-forgiveness. When it comes to self-love, I think self-forgiveness is a key skill, and often it's much easier to forgive other people than it is to forgive ourselves. At the end of the day, if you really 100% take full extreme ownership of yourself and how everything in your life you have created because it's in your life, that is a really confronting thing to know. But if you take that attitude of extreme ownership and know that everything is your responsibility, then it's also a really powerful place to sit in, because it means that you've got full control of where this goes. And by forgiving yourself for any of the shit that's happened in the past or present, you know, stop beating yourself up about stuff, because if you're beating yourself up about anything, that's also a clear sign that you're not loving yourself enough. Because your best self, and ask yourself this, what would my best self do? Your best self would shake that shit off and go, you know what? That's that. I forgive myself for all of it. I'm just going to take action now. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not in the new year, but right fucking now. Right now. There is no better time than right now for any kind of action, you know? Hey, Carol. Saying yes, but wanting to say no, getting better. Yeah, I know you are. I've seen you. Something that people struggle with is saying no to stuff. And say, I don't know, say for example, someone invites you somewhere and you feel obliged to go, right? And you always feel obliged to go because that's the kind of person that you are. Well, instead of saying yes and going and not wanting to go out of obligation, and instead of saying no but coming up with some bullshit reason as to why you can't go, maybe you actually don't want to go because you want a whole day to yourself to just chill, and that is more than okay. So a way that I've discovered to say no in a way that people can't argue with and can't twist your arm, is just by saying, well, first of all, you can say maybe I might come and I might not come, and that gives you the time to think about it. But also, if it really doesn't feel like a no, if it really doesn't feel like a yes and you know you won't go, then just say, oh, it doesn't really feel like a yes for me right now. And not a single person can argue with that. No one can argue with, it doesn't feel right for me right now. So EFT, we've got forgiveness. Decluttering is another one of my tools that I use as well. When it comes to self-love, decluttering people and situations that don't serve you anymore is pivotal and a game changer for your life. So whether it's culling your Facebook friends list, whether it's deleting some phone numbers and blocking some people, whether it's just not making the effort to catch up with certain people anymore, then, you know, start doing that. Realize who's in your life who's just an absolute drain on your energy, and start not seeing them. Start phasing them out of your life. Start saying no. That's really important. And beliefs is another thing that you've got to declutter as well. So we've all got some limiting beliefs around stuff that's holding us back, especially in the area of self-love. Some core beliefs are things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm useless, I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, they won't want me around, who's ever going to love me, all that kind of stuff. So those are the kind of things that I help my coaching clients. I was doing a session today with a client actually where we did some limiting belief clearing work using mirror work, and it was really, really interesting because she was actually in a really good place when she came here today. She's part of my Go Deeper package. So that's a 12-session program where we do 6 sessions of coaching and 6 sessions of healing, and we do like a coaching session and then a healing session, and combining the two together, like once you've brought up all the stuff in coaching to be Like it's all sitting there in your energy field. It's really good to then follow it up with a healing session. And so she was feeling really good when she got here because she's done 6 sessions so far. So today was session 7 and 8. And she's been feeling great since the last session, right? Like we've worked through loads of sadness, loads of anger, loads of resentment and bitterness, and she was just in a really good space. So she didn't necessarily want to start triggering all those limiting beliefs that we discovered in the last coaching session. And we brought them up in her energy field today to release and clear them. And it's really, really powerful stuff. She was like buzzing when she left here. So that was really great. What is it that you're using, Carol? Sorry, I missed that comment. Yeah, so decluttering limiting beliefs is a really important part of it, but also figuring out what those limiting beliefs are that are holding you back. They've been well ingrained generally between the ages of 0 and 7. When they came from a really emotional place. We learn by either repetition or by it through emotion mainly. You can tell a kid, don't touch the stove, don't touch the hot stove like 20, 30, 50 times, and it might sink in. Or they can just touch a hot stove and they'll never do it again. And that's how we learn our limiting beliefs, that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy enough. Everyone's got these beliefs to some extent. The extent to which you can be successful is really dependent on how much you can ignore or overcome those limiting beliefs and do the work to get rid of them and install new software, new programming in your brain, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. And also, yeah, setting other boundaries with people as well. So as well as saying no, really letting people know that what they said or they did or how they're treating you is not okay with you, because we do teach people how to treat us. And the more you don't say anything, you cannot assume that everyone will treat you how you want to be treated. You can't assume that people will treat you how you treat other people either, especially if you're coming from a place of a lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, lack of self-respect. You are a certain vibration that is attracting people towards you based on that vulnerable vibration that you're putting out there. You're likely to attract codependent relationships, narcissistic people, users and abusers, and all of that just contributes over time to wearing and grinding down your confidence and self-esteem until you're a shell of your former self. Does that resonate with anyone here? It definitely was me in the past. And through building on my self-love and self-worth and self-esteem, that's how I've overcome that to attract fucking magnificence into my life. It's really, really cool. Coming from this place in the future, if I could tell myself, my younger self, my 20-year-old self, for example, when I went through my first breakup at 21 and my self-esteem was shattered, my first serious relationship, I would go back and say, just focus on working on self-love and everything else will fall into place. When you love and respect and honor yourself to the degree that you should, and you become the best version of yourself, you don't say yes to anything that isn't a fuck yes. You don't attract people, friends, relationships into your life, situations into your life that don't serve you anymore. And if you do, then it's for a very short time. It's like a blip on the radar, because you soon figure out that it's not meant to be in your life anymore. I don't feel like saying yes. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. And compliments. Okay, so I was talking to one of my Reiki students about this the other day. I find a lot of people that I teach Reiki to, a lot of people who love to help other people and are in helper type roles, whether it's Reiki, massage, nursing, teaching, whatever it might be. I find a lot of people who are givers really struggle to receive. And I like to give genuine compliments often, genuine ones, not just for the sake of it, but genuine compliments. And I'll often say, like if I see someone and they're wearing a top that really looks lovely on them, I'll say so. And I would say, and try this for yourself, I would say 90 to 95% of the time, what you get back is, this old thing, I just got it from the Salvos, or it's really old, or it needs a wash, or someone said I had nice hair earlier on, and a lot of people will say, it's because I washed it today, and people will often rebuff the compliment and they'll shrug it off, or they'll feel the need to give a compliment back straight away. But very, very, very rarely does anyone say, thanks, I really like this top. That's why I wear it, right? So if you're someone that struggles with self-love, self-esteem, self-acceptance, whatever it might be, and you struggle with receiving compliments, then that's a really small and easy way, although it might feel challenging for you at first, to start building your sense of self-love. When someone gives you a compliment, just accept the compliment and start giving out genuine compliments to other people as well, but not at the same time, not just because you've just received a compliment. You know, start seeing the good in things, start seeing the good in yourself, compliment yourself, look in the mirror and say, I fucking love you, until you mean it. And you might not mean it at first, and that's okay, but it will get easier over time. So yeah, those are all my little top tips on how to increase your sense of self-worth and self-esteem. I have 2 freebies for you if you want them. One is there's 3 worksheets, my forgiveness worksheets. So there's 3 different ways to do forgiveness that I teach. And so I've got 3 forgiveness freebies for you there. And then I've also got my Project Self-Worth playlist as a giveaway as well. So if you are on the live or if you're watching the replay, if you're watching replay, hit replay, post replay below. And if you want the freebie, comment freebie in the comments box. And I will personally reach out to you and send those over to you as soon as I see your message. So if you have any comments, feedback, or your own self-love ideas, please drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And other than that, I will catch you on the flip side. I've loved hanging out with you on Facebook Live. I always do.